Oh my god, it's showtime. Hello. It's Thursday, July 17th, 2014. I'd like to welcome you to the Day 9 Daily, where we learn to be a better gamer. In today's episode, we're going to look at soO's. Yes, believe me, the sexiness doth unraveleth. Yeah. We're going to look at soO's, the multi-time GSL finalist. We're going to look at his infestor Queen Ultra style against Protosses. soO's infestor Queen Ultra with a little bit of Brublorb. So good. We're going to be looking at that. Tomorrow I'm going to be playing Age of Mythology, which I understand is kind of a fancy schmancy RTS-y, and I can't wait to see exactly what it entails. But I do know that what I'll likely be doing the entire time is spending money to make more money. You know what I'm saying? You give me a strategy game where you can pay money to increase your economy. Oh my god, there's no fucking stopping me. Plants vs. Zombies, give me the sun. All the sunflowers. Fucking 3 rows of sunflowers. Every time. Like, when I play, I would build the walnuts and then the potato mines. And that's it. I would walnut, potato mine, 3 rows of sunflowers. And then I'd start uprooting them and replacing them with the double sunflowers. I was like, insane. Give me the goddamn sun. That's how I play it. So I'm looking forward to myself tomorrow. All that sun. All that sun. The important thing is that I'm just going to be rearranging my hair periodically throughout the show. Oh my god, I look like a hot Rupert. This is amazing. Died so much from overflowering, says Siri here. You gotta be careful with the sun. Let me tell you about the sun. You can't just go sun without any thought. You can't just blindly look into the sun. You gotta plan. You gotta get a little cardboard box with a hole cut in it, and then you can look straight at the sun like I do. Ooh. Feels. Oh, yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in a very silly mood today. Let me come over here. And talk about... No, not him. This guy. We're going to look at soO's, which I assume is how you pronounce a name like that. soO's versus Hero. These are players that we can touch. Praise the sun. That's what I'm talking about. We're going to look at soO's on Ultrazim Stronghold, which is a big map, and I think that what I need to do is I need to be precise. Because StarCraft is a very complex game, as all good strategy games should be, this isn't like a thing that you can just do. Style we're looking at. You can't just go Infestor Queen Ultra every game the same way we're going to see here blindly. You'll hear me reference deviation points where you can break off, but we're going to look at a kind of compacted area, which is a Protoss that gets 3 bases fast using air. 3 bases fast using air. Using what? Using air. Using air. Using air. Using air. So we're going to see deviation points that can occur. We won't see those deviants occur. In part 1, we're going to be watching this first game that I think is a very calm, not out-of-control game. And then in part 2, and a little into part 3, we'll watch a crazier game. So that way you have 2 points of reference. Oh my god. Speaking of points of reference, one of my favorite points of reference, Covert Infin. Welcome to the chat. I'm going to type something. Alright. If you're live in chat, direct your eyes to that real fast. That's so good. Okay. Oh, that was filthy. Okay. So we got soO's hanging out. He's done his early expand. Now there's some maps. You know, here's one thing that's interesting about being in the archives. You don't know. You'd have no idea what it was that I said. You don't know. That happened live. So, I'll hopefully let you piece it together. Covert Muffin, his keyboard's broken. He can type everything except for you. So he has to use an underscore. So if he said, you know, but, it would be B_TT. So I made a little joke about things that Covert Muffin could say in bed. It made me giggle. Excellent. Now soO's doing the triple expand. This is not a necessary piece to the build, but it can certainly help as you're going to be powering up. On Altruism Stronghold or a map like Frost, you can get away with the 3 hatches, but if you want to go hatch into pool, it's going to be A-OK just fine. Oh. Alright, Mr. soO. Getting his expands up. So when we think about all the scary things that can come threaten us, we're kind of assuming that he's not going to go 4-gate, because even if he does, we'll lose this and we'll stabilize on 2 bases and basically win. There are early gateway attacks that can happen. There are very, very early stargates that can begin to harass us. Most of the time the Protoss will be getting himself up at Fast Expo. Oh yes. So here we're going to see some interesting things. 2 queens get built. No 3rd queen yet. Most of the time, players will rush for that 3rd queen, but making sure the dronage comes up soon. Not an immediate thing, but just spending all the larvae first. Next interesting thing that's going to be of note. 6 minutes is a pretty common time to get double gas for typical play. Getting it a little early, close to 5:30, is very common for soO. He tends to get these gases earlier than most other Zergs. Now, most of the time, if you are getting double gas very, very early, if you get a lair, you have spent your money on something that's going to allow you to spend more money, right? If you spend your money getting a fast lair, then it's going to finish sooner, which means you can build a Hydralisk Den sooner, or a Spire sooner, which will let you spend more money sooner. If you delay the lair, you have to wait to get the Hydra Den, which will delay the Hydras and delay other ways of spending. So if soO's doing this, if he's going for fast lair, he probably doesn't want the 3rd queen ultra quickly. There's a lot of builds in which you just don't really want that 3rd queen at this base because you're favoring the tech play. However, we see soO already getting more queens at the 2 locations closest to the entrance. We've gotten this fast gas, so what would be the methodology here? How would we spend it? Well, first we see the metabolic boost go down. Okay, well great, that's delaying the expenditure of funds a little bit more. Getting some Zerglings out to scout, getting queens to spread the creep. Cool. Now, if you consider what time we're at, which is right now, this is the fastest possible Oracle. 7 minutes. Fastest with the expansion. Coming out so quick. Let's actually take a look. This is a Protoss player who went Nexus first, straight into Gateway, straight into Cybernetics Core, and then straight into Stargate. Where's the Stargate? There it is, sorry. Straight into Stargate. If your opponent went for like a Forge and then a Gateway, this would be about a minute later. Alligator. But this is quite fast. Oh, is this muted? Oh my god, it is. Oops. Sorry about that. Nice, it's okay, you got all the good stuff. So we can see out of Camp soO is that whereas most Zerg players would need to carefully spend their money on spore crawlers, soO can get away with spending a little bit less money on spores because there's so many queens here. The queens can rearrange themselves. It's a little bit of a yucky spot to be in on this map, but that's okay. Next thing of note for soO. How else is he going to spend his gas? Well, he kind of has a lot, but his next step is going to be to get this double Evo chamber. This is, in fact, in part because he saw the air units. If, for instance, you didn't see, like, a Void Ray, if you just saw an Oracle, you might have to be a little bit, or excuse me, if you saw no Oracle, if you saw no Void Ray, you would probably have to be a little bit careful and perhaps not go as eagerly into these upgrades, but do something a little bit more defensive. But again, this is a very focused, to-the-point kind of build. Later Spine Crawlers going down. Later Spine Crawlers. +1/+1 on the Zerglings, and the last thing that goes down is the lair. So I want to talk about some things real fast. If you're Zerg, and you see that fast starport, I want you to be aware of how many Zerglings are out right now. In fact, some Zerglings have already been lost. soO, in the process of getting close to the 7-minute mark, actually threw out a couple Zerglings. Like right when his speed got started, way long ago in our discussion. Gets the speed up. This is going to allow him to apply pressure. Most importantly, check for that third base. Get some units there. Be aggressive. If there was no third base and you're soO, probably going to have to be focusing more on units. Once you see the third base, soO continues to send Zerglings out to monitor it, but can take a little bit of a breather. The only thing that's scary is if this gets canceled and a big all-in comes. So great. We see some more usual plays from soO as his layers coming up, getting these additional gas geysers, Because most of the time what's happening at this point from the Protoss standpoint is Protoss is just rounding out defenses. He's getting more Stargates to get more defense, or he's getting Colossus to get more defense. He doesn't have any of that yet. And the Protoss is going to be pretty passive for a little while. So here's what's cool. These 6 queens that were built early, not only good for just flexible defense, can immediately begin this big creep spread. As the Zergling count dwindles a little bit, more Zerglings get produced, keeping it roughly at 20. And look at this. Infestation Pit, Spire, all the scary layer techs coming up right away. And these Zerglings that keep getting built are so important for just finding out what's up. Waltzing forward, spotting extra Void Rays, waltzing forward, spotting Colossus, really trying to get a good grip of what's occurring here. And while all this is going on, it's just more queening. Starts the queening again when the layer's up. Very cool play. Very weird play. Overseer marching in, seeing the double Stargate, seeing everything that's up. Actually, I didn't give enough credit to that Mr. Overseer. So, our layer's just finished. We just began the Infestation Pit and the Spire. We're already getting Queen 1, Queen 2, and in just a second, Queen 3 is going to get started here. The Overseer wants to come in and find out what's up. I mean, if we, for instance, saw some guy getting a lot of Colossus, well, great, we already have the Spire for Corruptors. If we see him getting a lot of air, great, we already have the Infestation Pit for fungal growth. If we saw him going for masked Zealot Archon, we can respond with the correct answer, which might very well, I think, just probably be Mutalisks and Spines. But soO just waltzes in and spots all the things. And it's pretty clear that this is a big air play. And this is what I love about this build. This build is especially good against someone who is using something that is more air-focused. We just talked about the big deviation point that was identified by this Overseer. You have plenty of flexibility, plenty of information. You can observe, you can switch, any of that. Beautiful transition option. And here, as it's all finishing up, and as soO's seen it, he goes, okay, great, I'm going in the anti-air front. Now, what I think the common thing to do is to just build a bunch of Corruptors. Most of the time you see players just flood a buttload of Corruptors because they see air, and Corruptors are anti-air. Actually sucks, because everything Protoss builds destroys the shit out of the Corruptor, especially Void Rays. So what we see out of Hero is that with 3 Stargates, he just keeps building Void Rays. So Zerg kind of has to keep building Corruptors. And then Protoss wins. Okay, cool. So, what's nice about what soO's doing here is that he's getting anti-air that can buy time. He's getting up Queens, which can repel the air. He's getting pathogen glands, which will be infestors, which, you know, bolster that anti-force. And this is all to allow him to step immediately up to Hive. Look at how fast this Hive tech is. Look at this fast 2-2. Look at the drone production. If we back up a few seconds, we'll see that 13 drones were just produced. 15 drones, excuse me, for the new expansion. Up to 85 drones. So pretty. So upon seeing air, soO's not fucking around, man. He's just gonna get all the spore crawlers. And he's just expanding like crazy. Well, actually not like crazy. Let me restate that. He is not really expanding like crazy. He's just taking a 5th. Expanding like crazy would probably be taking 1 or 2 extra bases. But soO's actually staying pretty defensive. And you heard me talk about, oh, those lings are so important. Well, they've been spotting everything. And the instant soO feels like he needs to spot in more locations, alright. Okay, cool. Looks like it's good now. Yeah, look at the continued queen production up to 11. It's kind of cool, this infestor queen defense. And then once the hive's done, instant ultralisk cavern. Instant adrenal glands. When 3-3's done, instant 3-3. The speedy Zerglings are generally something to be avoided with this style. And when I say avoided, I mean in mass numbers. 40 is not terribly many. You want enough to repel annoying little forces, enough to keep an eye on all the nearby expansions, and enough to just look at what he's doing. But other than that, soO's been building a ton of drones. Like, he's at 88. He's at 88, and look, 12 spore crawlers that he's built. So it means that soO's built over 100 drones this game, and been turning them into defensive structures. He is not being shy at all with his drone production. Now we have Les Ultras coming up. Greater Spire coming up. This is like the most late game focused army ever of all time. It's like the hyper efficient Zerg Deathball. So you see these little warp-ins, whatever, that's fine. This is how we shut it down. With Infesta, Ultra, all sorts of good stuff. We now see some of the purpose of having these spore crawlers up everywhere. This is not a hugely aggressive Protoss. He hasn't attacked a lot in different spots. I mean, he's been kind of annoying with these. There was a drop at the bottom that was kind of annoying, but not really. Mostly, soO's got to do his thing. So, we see that the Ultras are the first thing when the Hive comes out, but then shortly on the back foot are the Broodlords. All 13 queens hanging out at the front.
The Hive cluster is under attack.
More Void Rays than we could count. And we're almost done with part 1. But it's a cool style because the 3-3 was begun, or excuse me, the 1-1 was begun so early that now the 3-3 can get started quite early as well. The queens with the creep spread means you have a pretty mobile anti-air force, and unless Protoss is extremely careful with the Void Rays, you get to fungal. So most of the time Protosses hang in there and deal a lot of damage and then back away. But with this build that you'll be doing, it's much harder for him to do that. Because the fungal growth punishes anyone who lingers. And yeah, I mean, if you look at this composition, what would really beat it? Here's an Ultralisk that keeps getting transfused back to full health. I'm gonna hold over on the extremely high health units here. Fungal growths go down. Ultra's getting a little bit far ahead, but once they're in range... Oh, well, it looks like these guys at the back, you can see them continuing to get transfused. Actually, no, I'm going to back up. I should have been selecting the Corruptors, too, because they ate up a lot of transfuse energy as well. You know what? Screw it. Let's look at it again. That was one of the worst battle management lookings that I've ever done. Selecting Corruptors. And Ultras and Broodlords. Alright, let's look at some health bars. Relatively small amount, but then you see the transfusions. Starting in a sec. There, now they're in range. A couple misclicks. Oh, such a beefy army. Oh, yeah. The army biff. Transfusing each other, transfusing the Ultra. Now, granted, this particular battle seemed to not exactly go in Zerg's favor until you look at the whole minimap and see that Protoss doesn't have a 4th. Protoss is low on money in his main and natural, and his 3rd is really his only hope. Also, when you look at the money for Su, remember those 88 drones? Well, it's down a little bit. A base was built in the meantime. And then we have 5 Ultras and 22 Zerglings. So you heard me talk about how great it is to neglect the Zerglings early on. Totally agree with that point. Do neglect the Zerglings. But when you want to replenish armies and stay aggressive in a spot like this, it's very easy. Just build Das Lingus and build Das Ultralis. The Reflood army from Su is super fast also. Alright, come on, go kill him. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, it's easy. So easy.
Mineral field depleted.
Alright, it's done. GG. So that was cool. Little Ultra Infestor Queen style. It's one of those mixtures that a lot of people will wind up with if the game gets really long and we see a structure for Su to have done it. Getting it fast. Ooh. So yeah, so we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to look at a longer, slightly more difficult, scary game for Su, and we'll see the flexibility that it has. Alright, here we go.